I think that's what's most interesting to me is who's kind of like the leader of that show, who's kind of like directing the conversation. I would assume it would be Tyrone, but it was hard to determine that yesterday just based on the fact that like Tyrone was steering the conversation when the other two guys came on, and he has been hosting the interim show anyway, right? So that's how it was going to look. I think it's an interesting combination for sure. With Ricky being there for sure, and Hunter's good with baseball too. I think the baseball conversation is going to be really good, which is funny to me because they don't have the Phillies radio rights. So how much can Ricky do Sixers? Does Ricky know the Sixers? I don't know. Does he know the Eagles? I'm not sure.
Yeah, who's going to talk Eagles, you think?
Yeah, I don't really know. Maybe lean on callers for that. I think with Mike's case, like they have Brian Westbrook was coming in and doing all those Fridays. I would assume they continue that. I think they've been continuing that with Tyrone doing in the interim, but I'm not totally sure. Lean on your guests for that for sure. But yeah, I mean, you could ask questions about like the institutional knowledge when it comes to that kind of stuff. If you look at like Marks and Reese and you look at Richie and DeCamera, okay, you got two former Eagles there, and like obviously WIP's morning show gets all of the big interviews because they're the flagship radio station for sure. So I think that's a legit question too. Tyrone obviously can do basketball as well as anybody. Hockey, they're the partner for the Flyers, so they're gonna have to do that too. But
and Broads will be able to do that. He's a former hockey player.
Yeah. Broads can do that. I do think there's question marks about the Eagles for sure. Like who's the expert voice on the Eagles?
There was an interesting video, or not an interesting video, but during Tyrone's announcement, Dave, if we want to bring up that video, it felt like he was taking a shot at you originally, and then kind of pivoted to the haters midpoint. So check this out.
They're talking and all this stuff. People thought that this was just like a done deal like 90 weeks ago. And I'm trying to say, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about?
They had the right names.
but they didn't have the right names. Did they have the right name? When they were writing it, were they correct, Hunter?
No.
Just think.
No. They had me down.
They had you down, and maybe stuff was done. But I can tell you that people jumped the gun, and they did a lot of guessing. And I would just like to thank everybody for keeping their composure, because I don't know, probably people like you, Ricky. But I know there were some people who might have said a couple unkind things to you, Hunter.
Never.
There were people who said a few unkind things.
When am I the liked one?
You are. You become the liked one. Everybody's like, I like Ricky Bell.
It's going to be that.
Oh my God. Man. But I'm not dwelling on that. What I want to say is I appreciate you guys for having the fortitude to not play into that, because we're going to provide a great product for people and an experience every single day. And we can't be worried about the haters. So I really appreciate it.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, he can't be talking about us, right? Because there's like a pivot to just random haters. But then he also says like the people writing about it didn't have the names right? But we had every single name. We did the follow-up story yesterday before their announcement. We had all four of the names right. When we did the story originally back in June, I think we had Hunter and Tyrone originally, right? And then like I updated the story a couple hours later and said, okay, I'm hearing Ricky Bowe, right? But I wasn't sure if Jen was sticking around or not. But I mean, we had like the core of the show. I thought I heard in that clip there, he said something like 90 weeks ago or something like that. Maybe he was
that was weird.
People who, maybe is he suggesting like if there was people saying stuff, if negotiations were going on before while Mike was still there. I don't think he's talking about us because we also didn't criticize anybody in any of those stories either. So
no, I don't know. It felt like he was like coming after the stories, and then he, like I said, he pivoted to the haters. But then it felt like maybe it was maybe the Twitter comments. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, if you go on anything that we post on 97.5 about these guys, anything we write, the comments underneath it. I mean, these guys say it. They tag Tyrone, they tag Broads, they tag Ricky Patalico, they tag even Jen Sporto in 97.5. These guys all see the comments and all the hate and everything. I have a hot take for you. I went back and watched the announcement yesterday. I don't think Broads' voice is that bad. That's a main sticking point with a lot of people, that Broads.
People were saying that,
that people can't listen to Broads, and I think his YouTube voice is different than his radio voice. I don't think he can scream and yell all the time. On YouTube, it does work. On different platforms, it does work.
Well, and you adjust them in based on whatever platform you're working off of for sure. Especially too, if we assume that Tyrone's going to kind of be the lead guy, and then maybe Hunter and Ricky work off of him, then it's not going to be, Broads kind of driving the conversation and being like the main guy like he does on YouTube, or if he's hosting solo on the weekends or whatever. But yeah, I did see that a lot on the comments. And look, like, at the same time, like Twitter's Twitter. There's always a lot of haters and shit talkers on social media. But yeah, that was strange. I was listening to that live and I was like, is Tyrone talking about us? Because we had the names and there was nothing critical coming from us in any of those stories. Maybe like you read the replies to the Crossing Broad tweets or something like that, and then you saw somebody say, hey, I don't like this person, I don't like that person. Maybe it gets attributed to us, but there was nothing like on our end where we were like, hey, we don't like the show, or we don't think this is going to work, or anything. I think we were pretty neutral and pretty fair and
pretty right.
Yeah. I mean, like the only reason we dig on this stuff is because like that's what we do. It's like
people love it.
No, I know people always say stuff like, "Oh, you guys are like obsessed with this or that." I'm like, "No, we do media news, man. We try to report on media news." So, yeah, I don't know. I thought that was strange, but when I listened back to the whole thing, yeah, I don't think he was talking about us. So, plus, I think we're cool. Yeah, we're cool. So
we're cool.